Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? July 28th, 2025, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. Why are black women leaving the labor force? More than 300,000 the last couple of months. We'll talk with Morgan Harper, an economist, about that very issue. Also on today's show, you've got folks starving in Gaza. You've got USAID shuttered by Donald Trump, and Virginia Senator Tim Kaine is putting the screws to the Trump administration as to why they're letting people starve around the world. Also on today's show, we'll talk to a Georgia gymnastics coach. They're losing their home. They're the only gymnastics program for young black boys. He will talk to him about what's going on and how they're trying to save their program. Also on today's show, Colorado head coach Deion Sanders reveals his battle with bladder cancer. We'll show you some of that news conference. And this weekend, the Original T Golf Classic celebrated the third African-American woman to ever play on the LPGA Tour. We'll show you what she had to say about receiving that award last night. Folks, it's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. Yeah, it's on go, roll, roll, y'all. Yeah, it's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Why are we seeing a massive loss of black women in the labor force? 38,000 in April, more than 100,000 in the last couple of months. There are a variety of reasons being cited. Let's go right to Morgan Harper, of course. She's an economist. She's also the director of policy and advocacy at the American Economic Liberties Project in Columbus, Ohio. Glad to have you on the show, Morgan. So what the hell is going on?
Yeah, in a lot of ways, this isn't really surprising, Roland, because as we've been talking about the last couple of months, we know that Doge has resulted, even if Doge was a fake project in a lot of ways, it has resulted in real job losses, not in the name of efficiency, just in the name of ruining people's lives, it seems like. And who are a lot of federal employees? We have a lot of black women that are part of the federal labor force. And so that's going to hit us directly. The other thing, and another theme we've talked about, is the ripple effects of some of these federal policies and the changes in things like DEI. They don't just stay in the federal government. So add on to top of the federal job losses, we have a lot of private sector companies that are saying, oh, we don't have to care about DEI anymore either. And we can cut back on some of the money that we were spending, the full-time employees that we had working in that area also tends to have a lot of Black women that were working in that field. So, it's a compounding effect for sure. I don't know that we have a ton of immediate solutions here, but for sure we need to be sounding the alarm on the nature of the problem.
See, now I'm confused because a bunch of these simple Simons who said that I was shilling for the Democrats said that I was making too much out of this, that, Roland Martin's trying to scare us, saying Trump, they're going to start getting rid of Black people in the federal government. Seems like I was right.
Yeah, who was going after you for that?
Idiots. Idiots. I'm sitting here going, what the hell are y'all talking about? I'm like, the data's the data. If 1 in 5 federal workers are African Americans, you're going to see the cutbacks. When you talk about also what positions they're in, you're going to see folks get laid off. There's a notion that's like all the veterans out there who voted for Trump being stupid thought they were not going to be impacted by Doge. Thousands upon thousands are being cut from the Department of Veteran Affairs. Yeah, it was going to impact Black people.
Yeah, and we're not done yet. I mean, where I used to work, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, that's a whole set of federal employees that's still waiting for the court process to unfold to know whether or not their jobs are done. And then we have to add on top of that government contractors. And a lot of people that, even if they're not official federal employees now, there have been a lot of cutting of the federal contracts that were employing a lot of us as well. And so, we're just going to continue to see some of these ripple effects, like I said, and it's going to start to impact not just the bottom line of the individuals that are being laid off, let go, offered these severance packages, whatever, but it's going to start to impact the overall economy because we know we have a lot of purchasing power. We know that there are a lot of households that are being led by Black women as the single breadwinner in a lot of cases. And that's going to start to impact children, impact at the community level. So this should be considered, a real emergency. And like we've experienced in a lot of other economic times, the first wave might hit the Black community, but it's a sign of what's to come for the general population as well.
Yeah, the Washington Post, here's a perfect example of what we're talking about. The Amistad Research Center, one of the largest repositories of Black history, cut its staff in half because they lost 4 federal grants. That's a perfect example. So they're not federal workers, but when you start cutting billions in dollars in grants that have gone out to various groups, that's what you see. The Brennan Center posted something, I'm looking for it right now, where the Brennan Center posted the number of jobs, the number of programs that were targeted to end violence and on public safety, they cut those grants as well. So now if you work for those nonprofits or those groups, you also are now out of a job.
Yeah, and add on to that, the state impacts, so the state budgets. Local government, that is another big recipient of federal funds. The bill that passed, the reconciliation, the funding bill, is limiting the amount of money going to some of the state budgets. City governments also. I think there is back and forth about whether public schools are going to be getting all their funding. They've kind of they've relented on that a little bit. But no, it's every sector of the economy is now starting to feel some of the impacts of the administration's war on the state, really. And even people, and I think it's right, Roland. It's easy for people to think oh, well, I'm safe. I work in the private sector, whatever. No, this is going to eventually come to hit all of us and why we need to be paying attention to it.
Yeah. And for the people who were oh, y'all are just making a big deal out of this, it's kind of okay, watch what happens.
Yeah. And now the question is, what do we do? And I think this should be, added to the list of, okay, it's been pretty clear that the folks who are in charge right now, which is the Republican Party, don't really have an interest in working class concerns and particularly the Black community. And so where are we going with the observations and experiences that we are having, these job losses, the impacts on the economy? If we're going the Democratic Party, this is the kind of thing that we need Democrats to be talking about and highlighting some of these impacts all the time. And as they continue to expand into different parts of the country. So I think that's another misconception, is that, government workers, oh, that's just a DC thing. They've got it made in DC. Why do we care about them anyway? It's like, no, there's a lot of government workers all across the country. And to your point, Roland, as it starts to impact even nonprofits and as I was mentioning, some of the local and state funding, that's going to be everyone. There are no carve-outs when the goal is destruction.
Indeed. I want to bring my panel right now. Joining us, Dr. Omekongo, being a senior professor of Lecture School of International Service, American University, author of Lies About Black People, How to Combat Racism. Dr. Larry J. Walker, Associate Professor, University of Central Florida. Joy Cheney, founder, Joy Strategies out of D.C. Glad to have all three of you here. Over and over and over again, Larry, you worked on the Hill, and we kept trying to explain to people that when you talk about trickle down, when you talk about ripple, I call it a tsunami. And this is the thing that people don't understand. African Americans, we over-index in government jobs because of the history of Jim Crow freezing us out of corporate America. When you look at high five-figure and high six-figure jobs, the reality is, if you are an African American, more than likely, if you are in a six-figure job, it's going to be a government job. And I need people to watching to understand, when we say government job, we're talking about school district, the city, the county, the state, the federal government. We're talking about teachers, police officers, firefighters, all types of workers. So that's the first wave. And as we've been talking about, that second wave are the companies that get federal or state or local contracts or grants. You see massive cuts, that means a serious case of pneumonia for Black America.
You highlight some really important points, Roland, and as it relates to what we just heard and the study, essentially when it comes to the U.S. economy, Black folks are the canary in the coal mine when it comes to these government cuts and what is coming, right? So it's a trickle. Eventually, it's going to become a tidal wave for the rest of America, right? As we get impacted immediately by this, because we're the bottom of all these indicators because of systemic racism. But you're right. People are all this rhetoric about federal employees. They use federal employees as code for Black folks, because you're right. I don't know how many people I lived in the DMV for a number of years, and I don't know how many Black people I knew that worked in the federal government and did quite well for themselves. The challenge for this, as you just heard, the expert just talk about, is the impact this is going to have on the U.S. economy. Black women more likely lead households, as she mentioned. We have mortgages, rent, people paying for groceries. It will impact every aspect of the economy. Then in the next 6 months, year and a half, when it starts impacting groups that don't look like us, then there'll be a concern and worry. But it's really too late. These cuts are devastating. And I worked on the Hill. Joy worked on the Hill. And I've never in my lifetime seen this essentially taking a scalpel and just ripping up the federal government. And the long-term impact on the U.S. economy, people cannot understand how this will weigh on the economy. And then the challenges, like I said, foreclosures and all the other issues going to impact the Black working and middle class is going to be devastating for this country.
And again, we go over this, and Joy, I don't understand how any of these idiots could think that this was not going to impact Black America. And what have I consistently said? The goal of Trump and his team is to defund Black America.
That's correct. He wants to cut off avenues to advancement for Black people, for Latinos. He'll be the Asian Americans in a minute, and frankly, poor whites. He has, and he started with us. We know that we are always the canary in the coal mine, as has been already referenced. This is going to exacerbate what is just already a pay equity issue that's happening with Black women in particular, but across Black America. And it will have long range impacts. More than 30% of the employees that were let go in that first wave were Black people and other people of color. We know that he's going to get to everyone else later because there's severe shrinking of the federal government. It's going to happen all over. It started where it's most easy, but your panelists have already said this. I won't repeat it, but we are concentrated in jobs that were targeted by these diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. This is why on Black Women's Equal Pay Day, which was about 2 weeks ago, Black women's groups, women's groups, were focusing in on the attacks of the Trump administration on Black women as exacerbating the pay equity problem for us. We are disproportionately educated, but we still lag behind both white women and Black men, and certainly white men. And part of it is the jobs that we are concentrated in. And one of those in this case is federal jobs. So while Black Women's Equal Pay Day was mid-year this year, we can anticipate that next year it may be closer to the fall because this is going to expand inequity for Black women.
Congo?
I think we need to be mindful of the fact that in addition to everything that's been said, we have to just underline the fact that this is targeted retribution on Black women. I believe that so many people were outraged when the stat came out that Black women are the highest educated group in America. And I think that plus the Black women at the top of the ticket, just so much resentment that has been breeded against Black women that has already been here for centuries, obviously, but it's been increased. And we have to be mindful of that for sure. One of my biggest concerns is what people are doing to get resources outside of this, because what the government is also doing is cutting access to welfare access, food supplies, where people can go and actually get food from various places. Food banks is what I meant to say. They're cutting those off. So much of the access is also being torn. So what are people supposed to do there? So they're getting you coming and going. And I believe that if we can continue to raise awareness like you've been doing on the show the whole time, you said it, Roland, defund Black America, defund Black America. You talked about it in so many different areas. But now that hopefully the signal is as large as possible, I believe that there's still time for us to come together and try to organize in ways, but it's not going to happen if we don't organize politically, if we don't fight back legally, and if we don't stay involved politically as it relates to these elections and getting people in here who can help change some of the other policies that can help us get some of this footing. Because living in the DMV, as you know, Roland, my wife and I operate these yoga studios. We have so many people from the community who come in telling stories. They lost this, they lost that, foreclosure this, can't send their kid back to school that. So many different issues, and it's only going to get worse as the school year starts. Some aren't going back to college, and we have to continue to sound the alarm like you've been doing every week.
And Morgan, what we have to recognize, this is literally something that Black people have got to recognize. This is the next 3.5 years. First of all, even if, let's just say, Democrats take control of the House, the reality is Republicans are likely to still control the Senate. Trump is still sitting in the Oval Office. The votes are not there to override vetoes. And so you're talking about this is going to continue until the next election.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Roland. And the other thing to keep in mind is once you eliminate a job in the federal government, it's not that easy to just turn that back on. So, I think this is a warning. You're right. We have 3.5 more years regardless for a real shift in the power dynamics of the executive branch of government, hopefully, right? But either way, I do hope that happens, and the Democrats will keep in mind that they shouldn't just go with the rules and how they've been always done and all of this bureaucracy. It's like, there's probably going to be a need for immediate relief and immediate response and not getting lost in all of the details. The other point that I wanted to make was, in that 3.5 years, just the scale of damage that can be done, we need to be real about the generational wealth impacts that could come from this. Yep. Because what also happens with federal jobs, those are jobs with benefits. I will speak for myself. My federal job was the first time after paying back student loans that I started to do a real meaningful contribution to a 401k. Why? Because there was a match coming from the federal government to incentivize doing that. That's when people are guaranteed to have time off if women are having a baby or for parental leave generally, regardless of, dad, mom, whatever. So we need to be careful about, even if we are being told stories about jobs that are coming to replace the jobs that are lost from federal government, what kind of jobs, the quality of job. And I think it's fair to say that it's highly unlikely in the current economic environment that the jobs that are going to be created that are available to the broadest set of the public, and particularly the middle class, are going to be guaranteeing the same level of benefits that have been enjoyed through a lot of federal jobs that we've been occupying over the last several decades that have been halfway to the middle class.
So you lose jobs, you lose benefits. They're trying to cut Medicaid expansion, trying to cut the Affordable Care Act. And so they literally are trying to cut, and destroy the social safety net.
Yes, and if we know that $400 right now can be the difference for a lot of people between making it through the month or not, then imagine adding on top of that, you no longer have someone that's helping cover your healthcare premium. You no longer have an emergency fund that you have saved if you do have some unexpected medical expense or other life expense that comes up. And so just the possibilities for financial damage that really then leads to the damage of families and households is not even quantifiable right now. And that's very, very sad and scary.
Indeed. Morgan, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me.
All right, folks, going to a break. We'll be right back. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
This week on The Other Side of Change.
Zohran Mamdani, the New York City mayoral race, and this progressive wave that has sent such a shockwave through all of New York City and really the rest of the country. Jamal Bowman is going to help us understand what this mayoral election means and how we make sure that it translates across the nation.
Can you imagine national Democrats identifying themselves as having flavor or riz or swag? Absolutely not, right? So hopefully the city does what it can in November to help resurrect this dying party and honestly just resurrect our democracy.
Only on The Other Side of Change on the Black Star Network.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, Black Americans have 1/10 the wealth of their white counterparts. But how did we get here? It's a huge gap. Well, that's why we need to know the history and what we need to do to turn our income into wealth. Financial author and journalist Rodney Brooks joins us to tell us exactly what we need to do to achieve financial success.
You can't talk about why we are, as Black people, where we are, unless you talk about how we got here.
Bridging the Gap and Getting Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
Hey, what's up? Geek Tony in the place to be. Got kicked out your mama's university, creator and executive producer of Fat Tuesdays, an air hip-hop comedy. But right now, I'm rolling with Roland Martin, unfiltered, uncut, unplugged, and undamn believable. You hear me?
Folks, this story out of Alabama is absolutely shocking and stunning. 3-year-old kid, Katorius KJ Starks Jr., died after he was accidentally left in a hot car for several hours. Now, here's what's crazy. The Birmingham Police Department says KJ was in temporary foster care. He was picked up from a daycare around 9 a.m. by a third-party worker contracted through the Department of Human Resources for a supervised visit with his biological father. The visit ended around 11:30 a.m. Instead of returning KJ to daycare, the worker, who was employed by the Covenant Services, stopped to get food for her family, shopped at a tobacco store, then went home. The worker forgot KJ was in the car, fastened in a car seat for more than 5 hours. KJ was removed because they said that the parents were going to cause harm to the child. quote, a child in DHR custody was being transported by a contract provider. When the incident occurred, the provider has terminated their employee due to confidentiality. DHR cannot comment further regarding the identity of the child or the exact circumstance. As of right now, no charges have been filed. I cannot imagine, Joy, I cannot imagine if my child, first of all, I'm already stricken by my child being removed from my custody. But you remove my child from my custody, and then you end up causing my child to die.
Yeah, these are the saddest cases. This is shocking because of the state, but it does happen. And parents, especially in those summer months where the consequences are dire, and those deep winter months where the consequences are dire. I pray for these parents. They will never be able to be made whole, but the state does have the ability. There are technologies that have been created to make sure that if you are in a car and you have a child in the back seat, there's something that will alert you that something's moving back there.
Yeah. The Chevy EV Blaze I'm driving right now. Literally, when you stop, put it in park, it immediately tells you, "Hey, check the back seat for a child."
Yeah.
But I'm still I don't understand how it's your job, Ome Congo. I'm confused. You literally picked the kid up. How do you go food shopping into a tobacco store and then go home?
Yeah, and it just makes me wonder why this person has not been arrested already. How are charges not filed?
I want their asses in jail right now.
Period. Bottom line. This doesn't make any sense, and it represents every stereotype about the system as it relates to state custody. This is tragic. As a father of three, thinking about one of my own in a situation like that, the absolute neglect of this. And it just shows a fundamental mind. And yes, we know there are tragic situations where these things happen in real life, and in outside of this type of situation in terms of government workers. But this is their job. This is their stated job. And that this child, this beautiful child, would leave this earth in that particular situation, supposed to be going to see his father. This is something that should lead to an overhaul of the entire system and an investigation of the entire system. I wouldn't be surprised if other situations like this in terms of neglect happen. But if at the most part, this person should already be locked up with charges filed. And it's just a cautionary tale for all of us, who are running around, with kids and everything like that. But if this is your job, you're supposed to have a heightened level of awareness. And they got to throw the book at this person.
Larry, just shocking and stunning.
Yeah, as a parent, I just can't even. Joy highlighted it. They'll never get over this, and obviously this is a systemic failure. Roland, unfortunately, we hear too many of these stories of departments at the state level that were supposed to be caring for children. Obviously, this is a third party vendor, but they contracted one, so the state has a responsibility to look out for the child's well-being. I think the core of this issue is that apparently who was ever facilitating the child's movement from one place to another didn't value their humanity, because if they did, they would be acutely aware a small child was in the back seat and wouldn't end up going out and shopping in multiple places before that child. Obviously, I'm assuming it wasn't discovered, but there are no words for this kind of tragedy. And this is, like I said, this is the kind of failure that should never have happened. And if, like I said, if this individual really valued that child's life, this should have never have occurred.
Yeah,
Can I just say,
absolutely crazy. And when we talk about, you talk about, what's tragic and what's crazy. It really is also our next story. The last several months, several individuals, several celebrities and others, they have been cryptically talking about pray for Deion Sanders. We know he had issues with blood clots. He had to have 2 toes removed. But today, at the news conference, it shocked everybody when he revealed that he was actually diagnosed with bladder cancer. Deion went in for routine checkup and related to the blood clots. And then when they went to a urologist, they did a test, came back and said, hey, we got a problem. They found there was a tumor on his bladder. They made the decision to remove his bladder, rebuild a new bladder with his small intestines. And he was very frank, open, and honest about his procedure, what his life has been like, and also how he's been leaning on his faith from day one.
We're going to kind of break it down to you like we did our team. And it was so wonderful seeing the team yesterday. My God, it was so darn wonderful. Bucky compiled a wonderful video to let them know every step of the way so we wouldn't have to explain every detail. But it was phenomenal. I wish we could show you all that same video. It was extraordinary. I think Bucky's going to put it on his YouTube channel soon after this. But let's get started. Let's kind of give them, let's walk them through. Can we do that? Is that okay with you all? That we walk you through? Let's go, Law.
Okay, so as you guys know, Coach has his other health issues, his vascular stuff. So every year, Coach goes for a CT scan of his vascular pattern to make sure, the blood clots are away. So with this scan, everything turned out really great from the vascular side. About 2 weeks later, we get a text from his primary care doctor that said, I need to talk to you and Coach. We need to refer you guys to a urologist. So about 3 days later, we go see a urologist. They go in for a quick procedure. The urologist told us, hey, within 10 minutes, I can tell you guys if he's going to need another procedure or if we just need to do these follow-up appointments. And the doctor told us, okay, you guys are going to need another procedure. I'm going to refer you to my colleague, Dr. Kurkasia. But at this point, you have a bladder tumor. And from there, we'll go get it removed. And then Dr. Kurkasia, it was, go ahead.
Yeah, so we proceeded with removal of the bladder tumor. It showed a very aggressive,
Let's go backwards because you guys gave me options that scared me to death.
Oh, well, once we knew.
We'll get there. I'll get there.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We removed the tumor. It was very high grade, invading through the bladder wall, not into the muscle layer, something we call very high risk, non-muscle invasive bladder cancer. So we did discuss options. We discussed some options of treatment in the bladder, and we discussed bladder removal as well. Given his commitments to his family and to the team, elected to undergo a bladder removal. We performed a full robot-assisted laparoscopic bladder removal and creation of a new bladder. And I am pleased to report that the results from the surgery are that he is cured from the cancer.
You can clap, it's okay. Rick was aware of what was transpiring. He's been A1 and down there, just a blessing. Came to Texas to see me as well. But this was not an easy task because it was a changing kind of a lifestyle. And with Lauren and I coming from Jackson, this is how many surgeries?
From 2021, this is surgery number 14.
Surgery number 14. I had more surgeries out of the game than I did in the game. Like, what is going on? So, but they were so wonderful. You were such a blessing, guiding me to, taking me through, verbalizing every darn detail so that I could make an educated decision, which some didn't want me to go that way. They wanted me to go the other way. But I trusted and believed in you 100%. And the process wasn't easy. Just like it was some scenes that you saw, all the bull junk that transpired on draft day. It wasn't just that. It was just I knew as well I had a surgery coming up. My sons to this day don't know what transpired. I just told them something with my foot, again, because I wanted them to focus on making the team and not focused on dad. So they really don't know. My daughters do, and this joker right here, much love to my son, Junior, who have not left my side since we found out what was taking place. Not one day. He's been with me here, been with me in Texas, been with me everywhere, every day, and I've seen his handsome face. And I love you to life, son, and I thank you for everything you bring to the table. But this wasn't easy. Men, everybody, get checked out. Because if it wasn't for me getting tested for something else, they wouldn't have stumbled up on this. And make sure you go to get the right care, because without wonderful people like this, I probably wouldn't be sitting here today, because it grew so expeditiously, I could say. But please get yourself checked out, especially African-American men. We don't like going to the doctors. We don't like nothing to do with a doctor. You know that. So I'm not just talking to the brothers. I'm talking to my Caucasian brothers, my Hispanic brothers, my Asian brothers, my everybody, and my sisters. And that's all, y'all. Get checked out, because it could have been a whole another gathering if I had. I'm thankful. It's been a tremendous journey. It's been tough. I think I dropped 25 pounds. I was like a Atlanta Falcon Prime at one point, and just dealing with the catheter, dealing with all the stuff that I had to deal with. And right now I'm still dealing with going to the bathroom. Like, it's a whole life change. Like, I can't, and I'm gonna be transparent, I can't pee like I used to pee. It's totally different. And she not only is a blessing, but she provided other persons that have gone through what I've gone through so that I could talk to them and get some solace and understand like what I'm facing, not just from a doctor, but from another individual. And to have that been told, like, it's a totally different life. I mean, thank God. I depend on depend. You know, if you know what I mean. I truly depend on depend. Like, I cannot control my bladder. So I get up to go to the bathroom already 4 or 5 times a night, but then I'm sitting up there waking up, you know, like my grandson. We in the same thing. You know, we got the same problem right now. We going through the same trials and tribulations. We're trying to see who has the heaviest bag at the end of the night. Like, it's ridiculous. But I'm making a joke out of it, but it's real. Like, it is real, it is real, it is real. So if you see porta potty on the sideline, it's real, okay? I'm just telling you right now, you're gonna see it. You're gonna see the practice, you're gonna see one, because it is unbelievable. Like, dozing off and waking up, first thing I'm grabbing my crotch to see if I peed on myself. And it's just totally different. And I know there's a lot of people out there going through what I'm going through and dealing with what I'm dealing with. And let's stop being ashamed of it. And let's deal with it. And let's deal with it head on. And there's so many other companies out there that do a wonderful job, but I'm thankful that, we have a relationship with Depend, and we're making some other products, trying to make other products that to help all of us through. But it's been tremendous. These two, Lauren came down to Texas and was there with me during the whole way, up walking our miles in the morning, because Doc made sure you better walk, you better be active, and we did it until it was some points that I couldn't even get out of the bed for a week at a time, you know, but she was there. I remember yelling 2 o'clock, oh, Lord! You know, because I have 2 bags, right?
Mm-hmm.
One was what?
Both were urine, but one it was filled quickly. Very quickly.
Yeah, like blood in urine. It just looked bad, you know, and I'm fishing with 2 bags. You know, I'm trying to make life happen, and couldn't come around my team, and I wanted to be here with my team. I wanted to see the new talent that we brought in. I wanted to see them work, see them train, coach them, and I couldn't. But slowly but surely, I built myself back up to where I'm able, I'm strong, I'm ready. I'm still probably about 12 pounds down. I'm gonna get that right. I'm gonna fill these overalls up like no other. But it has been a tremendous journey, and I'm truly thankful that God is so good. God is so good. You have no idea. You have no idea how good God has been to me for me to be here. You have no idea.
Folks, this is a video posted on Deion Sanders' Instagram page, actually showing him fishing. He loves fishing, and you actually see how he has the two bags he's talking about sitting there on the table. He's got the tubes connected to him. Absolutely, Coach Prime has lost a lot of weight. It was so funny at one point in the video, he talked about how he's changed his numbers 2 or 3 times. He's going to do it again. I had hit him up a few weeks ago. Somebody was like, wrong phone number. Dr. Leslie Deane, Professor in Chief of the Division of Urology at Howard University College of Medicine, joins us right now. Dr. Deane, glad to have you here. So, first of all, explain this idea of rebuilding the bladder. That really blew me away when the surgeon said they took portions of his small intestine and rebuilt his bladder, How?
Great to be with you, Mr. Martin. So rebuilding the bladder is important because there needs to be a reservoir in place for the urine to collect. The small intestine is used for that purpose, and it is basically, as you know, the small intestine is a tubular structure. That is detubularized and fashioned into a reservoir, much like a ball or a balloon. And then the ureters, or the tubes coming from the kidneys down to the normal bladder, are sewn into that reservoir. Subsequently, it is anastomosed or connected to the urethra, which is the pathway out of the bladder to the outside, basically the tip of the penis. And we do that so that a person can avoid having a bag on the outside as a permanent solution.
So when he's talking about having to wear these two bags, that's temporary, or is that his life moving forward?
That usually is temporary, and I suspect what the 2 bags are for. One is a catheter into the urethra that drains urine from the bladder to the outside, and the second bag is probably a suprapubic catheter, which goes through the abdominal wall and into the newly created bladder. They both drain into a bag temporarily to allow all of the areas that are stitched back together to fashion that reservoir to heal. And that's the reason why the 2 tubes were likely there.
So during the news conference, the surgeon said that they caught this tumor on the bladder, but it had not been attached to bone, where if it metastasized, she said that folks have, 10% folks live beyond 5 years. So she said that this was a very aggressive form of bladder cancer, and because of the checkup for the blood clots, that's how they were able to find this so early.
Yes, and I suspect, based on the press conference and what was said by his physician team, it sounds like it was picked up on the angiograms or on the CT angiograms that were done for the blood clots. So that usually will include pictures starting in the abdomen and going all the way down the legs to look at all of the large arteries going to the legs. And included in that field would be the bladder. And they probably detected a mass inside the bladder, which then prompted all of the additional investigations and referral to a urologist.
So how do you, because this is one of the issues that also was raised during the news conference, symptoms, things along those lines. And so, what does a person look for? One of the surgeons said that bladder cancer is the fourth highest cancer for men. And so for people out there who are watching, who are listening, what do you pay attention to? What are you looking for?
So the main things are, if you see blood in your urine, that's a problem. And blood in the urine, in the absence of any symptoms of a urinary tract infection, should really raise the alarm bells. Many times this is picked up on a routine urinalysis that shows microscopic blood, so blood that you cannot see. And that will also prompt referral to a urologist for further evaluation. Additionally, a change in your urination habits. So meaning that you are going to urinate quite often. You feel that there's some pressure down there to urinate. You may also have some discomfort or burning when you urinate and empty your bladder. Those also can be symptoms of potential bladder tumors, including urinary frequency and urgency to go. Now, most commonly that is due to an enlarged prostate in men, but sudden changes or changes in the urine pattern should raise an alarm bell.
Last question before I go to my panel. So, Coach Sanders joked about there being a porta potty on the sidelines, him going to the bathroom a lot. So, having with his diagnosis and having bladder rebuilt, what is that life like? He talked about wearing Depends, joking about him and his grandchild. What is a person's life like moving forward, having a bladder removed and now rebuilt, and then having a bladder cancer?
So one of the main long-term risks with having a new bladder created inside the pelvis is urinary incontinence, which is what he's referencing. It takes some time to regain control, and that basically involves doing Kegel exercises, exercising the muscle that you would use to prevent yourself from urinating, to strengthen that area, and also strengthen the pelvic floor musculature. And then it takes some getting used to the sensation of what that new bladder feels like as it fills. It doesn't feel normal. It feels more like a pressure. So you have to get used to knowing how much you're drinking and typically how much urine you produce in a given period of time, and then basically time the emptying of the bladder and get used to that new sensation. I think he was joking a bit about having the porta potty on the sidelines, etc. But these are things that he will get used to over a period of time, and most likely will regain a substantial amount of control, if not full control.
So he's talking right now about what his life like is now, but what you're saying is over time, 3, 6 months, 9 months, a year, then you sort of get back to almost normal, if you will.
That's correct. Normal sensation is probably not going to come back as in terms of the native bladder or the bladder that you're born with, but you get used to what it feels like, what the new feeling feels like, and you can temper your activity based on that.
And it's really interesting, you talking about those Kegel exercises. Dr. Rachel, who's a sexologist, she does with a lot of men who have prostate issues. That's one of the things that she also, when she's helping men who've had prostate cancer surgery, do the exact same thing.
That's exactly correct, because when the bladder is taken out for bladder cancer, in a man, the prostate gland is also removed.
Gotcha. Questions from our panel. Larry, you first.
Yeah, so I wanted to highlight something he mentioned in terms of, he highlighted Black men and preventative care. And we mentioned prostate cancer, which impacts Black men. I know Howard had their recent, white coat ceremony there at the university. And so can you talk a little bit about the importance of same race physicians, particularly, like I said, we have cultural mistrust relating to certain groups, particularly Black men. Can you talk about the importance of having more Black physicians in the workforce?
Yes, absolutely. So I think that this is very important. Cultural sensitivity is important. Understanding what matters within the community that you are entrusted to treat matters significantly. And training Black doctors is very important. I don't think that there's any dispute in regards to the literature that when there is race and ethnicity congruent care, that the overall outcomes are better.
Omekongo?
So, Dr. Deane, one of the questions that I have is, I was told as you get older, going to the bathroom more frequently is like a normal thing. And when you're talking about that could possibly be a symptom of some of the things Deion was talking about. In the same ways that men are always advised to get their, prostate examined, are there other types of things that people could do during a normal checkup that could possibly hint towards any of these things Deion Sanders was dealing with before the pain comes?
Yes. So most routine physical examinations will include a urinalysis, and what that does is it looks at the urine microscopically. On that test, if there's a problem in the bladder or a problem in the ureters or a problem in the kidneys, you may detect blood. And that is what usually results in referral to see the urologist. In terms of screening tests, which I think is what you are alluding to, we generally don't screen for bladder cancer because the majority of times that a person has blood in the urine, it is not related to a malignant condition. The majority of times it may be coming from, if you consider the kidney as a coffee filter, for example, if you put coffee powder or coffee grounds into the filter and you pour water on it, you don't really see any coffee grounds in the cup that you're collecting. But as we get older, especially if there's diabetes, high blood pressure, the holes in that filter, i.e. the kidney, widen. So some of the coffee grounds would come through. And that's analogous to some red blood cells coming through into the urine. So the majority of times it is related to a filter or what we call a glomerular problem in the kidney, as opposed to a malignant condition. Enlarged prostates can also cause blood in the urine, as can urinary tract infections, as can stones, a variety of pathologies. So it generally is not cost effective to screen for bladder cancer.
Joy?
Well, first of all, Secretary Austin reminded men about the importance of getting checked for prostate cancer. Now we have Coach Prime reminding them of the importance of getting checked for bladder cancer. What increases the likelihood that you can get screening or that you might have a problem? Is it family history? And talk a little bit about how that relates and what you should be talking about in your family to discover if you are in a high-risk pool.
Yes, so important to really take an important history and give the physician the details surrounding your day-to-day activities. So if you are a cigarette smoker, that's important. In the Western world, cigarette smoking is the most common cause of bladder cancer, the most common cause of what we call urothelial cancer, which is basically the cell type involved in most bladder cancers. That same lining lines the ureters or the tubes from the kidney to the bladder and the inside aspect of the kidneys. And cigarette smoking is the most significant factor related to that. There are other risk factors in terms of getting older. We know that 9 out of 10 bladder cancers present in men over 55. So as you get older, this is something to be aware of, particularly if you have that history. Prior history of chemotherapy. There are some drugs that are used to treat leukemias and lymphomas that predispose to bladder cancer. So if you've had a history of leukemia or lymphoma as a younger individual, then knowing that the risk of bladder cancer is increased for you lifelong is also important. And then there are some hereditary aspects of bladder cancer. There's a condition known as the Lynch syndrome, which is a hereditary colon cancer syndrome, one that does not involve polyps in the colon, and that puts men and women at risk for bladder cancer. And then there are other genetic conditions that involve mutations of a particular tumor suppressor gene called P10 that is infrequently associated with bladder cancers. Additionally, exposure to dyes. So, folks who worked long ago in the hairdressing and hair salon industry where a lot of dyes were used, that's potentially a risk factor. Firefighters and inhalation of smoke, rubber and dye manufacturing industries, textiles, because of compounds like benzalkonium and benzidine. Exposures to those areas are risk factors. And then finally, if you look at Northern Africa, in the Egypt in particular, there is a parasite there that people get from washing clothes or bathing in the Nile River Delta that predisposes to a different type of bladder cancer. So, these are all things to be aware of.
Doc, my final question for you is, you said something that was critically important that I think a lot of people really ignore when you talked about family history. In fact, in Deion's case, he talked about this before when he was diagnosed with the blood clot problems. He actually got upset because it wasn't until he got diagnosed and his mother told him about the family history of blood clots. His mother and his uncles were diagnosed with blood clots. One uncle died from the blood clots. And Deion said, "Mama, why didn't anybody say anything?" So for people, Doc, it really explained to people why it's important for black mothers and black fathers to have real conversations with their children about what their parents or aunts and uncles, their health issues, because when you go to the doctor and they ask family history, they're not just talking about your mother, your father, brothers and sisters. They're like, no, your family history, your aunts and uncles and your grandparents. And so many people don't know anything about their family history and illnesses.
Yes, I think that that young people have to ask and inquire about their family history, as well as, mothers, fathers, uncles, aunts, grandparents, really informing the younger generations what potentially existed in the family, even if it was a distant relative. I think that that's important because, the way genetics works, not everybody gets the condition, but many people may be carriers. And it's important to know that if you are a carrier of an abnormal gene, it's important to know that environmental exposures throughout your lifetime sort of knock off the second gene and therefore then predispose to the carcinogenesis or mutagenesis issues.
Yeah, like for instance, my mom has asthma. But I don't have asthma, but I'm allergic to smoke. And when it gets in my system, sort of the same reaction. And so although I don't have asthma, one doc said, no, you said you have asthmatic conditions.
Right. Yes, and reactive airways tend to run in families as well. And that's a very important thing to be aware of. It may not be full-blown asthma, but there may be certain things that trigger asthmatic type symptoms when you're exposed to them.
Well, Dr. Deane, great information. Glad you can join us, and hopefully, folks really learn from this, and that it will spur men and women to again check with those doctors. Look, Deion was very forthright, very open, very honest, and in fact, Joy mentioned. When Secretary Austin dealt with prostate cancer, he didn't really want to talk about it. He kept it very private. And actually, I sent him a text message saying, hey, use this opportunity to actually help others because you could be saving somebody's life. And so I'm glad to see Coach coming out and doing that. And he made it clear he's going to be back on the sidelines. That's not going to stop him. But you're talking about a Hall of Famer who was the top of his game in sports. So trust me, he'll be attacking this like he attacked wide receivers opposing him. Doc, we appreciate it.
Thank you. Absolutely my pleasure.
All right, folks, got to go to a break. We come back, more on Roland Martin on Black Star Network. We'll talk to a gymnastics coach in Georgia. In his team, the only boys gymnastics team, they're now out of a place to work out. We'll talk to him and find out where they stand with that. Folks, support Roland Martin Unfiltered. That conversation we just had is a perfect example. Listen, you're not going to see on network television, cable television, spending 30 minutes talking about an issue like that. In fact, you damn sure not going to see a black urologist on any of those networks. And so this is why Roland Martin Unfiltered, the Black Star Network, matters, because we seek out African Americans who are experts in their field, showcasing their knowledge and expertise for you. And so, again, that's why this show matters, not just with the content, but with those experts. So do us a favor. If you want to join our Bring the Funk fan club, the goal is very simple. We're trying to get 20,000 people on average to contribute $50 each a year. That's $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. You support this show, you support the other shows on the network, the shows we're launching, that we're actually testing and we're launching. And what's important here is that we don't charge for a subscription. So I'm not asking you to pay $7.99 a month on Patreon or some other platform. It's really, again, a fan club. We've had people who say, you know what, Roland, I can't give $50, so they give $25, $20, $10, $5, $1. We had some people say they're blessed. They give $100, $5,000, $10,000, upwards of $30,000. We appreciate the dollar, saying we do $30,000. And so your support is critical to our success. If y'all watching on YouTube, y'all should be hitting that like button. All of y'all are commenting. That's important as well, because it changes the algorithm, which impacts the revenue that we generate as well. Because all this is about providing a service where we center African Americans in the news on this show. And so, do us a favor, folks, and contribute via Cash App. You'll see right here. Use the Stripe QR code. Just click the Cash App button to continue to contribute. Checks and money order. Make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. Roland Martin Unfiltered, please. P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 2003 7-0196. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo RM Unfiltered. Zelle Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Be sure to get our show swag as well. And remember, when you buy our shirts and hats and mugs and all sort of stuff, we get part of that revenue. And this is the key. We've switched providers. We've had too many issues with the previous company. If you ordered a shirt via Custom Spring, send us an email. Go to Roland Martin Unfiltered or go to RolandSMartin.com. Send us an email so we can help get your product. We have switched companies, so we're using a different company for ShopBlackStarNetwork.com, and so you can get our T-shirts, all of our stuff right there at ShopBlackStarNetwork.com. Back in a moment.
On the next A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, we're talking about leveling up, or to put it another way, living your very best life. How to take a bold step forward that'll rock your world.
Leveling up is different for everybody. You know, I think we fall into this trap, which often gets us stuck because we're looking at someone else's level up journey, what leveling up means to them. For some, it might be a business venture. For some, it might be a relationship situation, but it's different for everybody.
It's all a part of A Balanced Life. That's next on Black Star Network. This week on The Other Side of Change.
Zohran Mamdani, the New York City mayoral race, and this progressive wave that has sent such a shockwave through all of New York City and really the rest of the country. Jamal Bowman is going to help us understand what this mayoral election means and how we make sure that it translates across the nation.
Can you imagine national Democrats like identifying themselves as having flavor or riz or swag? Like, absolutely not, right? So hopefully the city does what it can in November to help resurrect this dying party and honestly just resurrect our democracy.
Only on The Other Side of Change on the Black Star Network.
Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm Devon Frank.
I'm Dr. Robin B., pharmacist and fitness coach, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Folks, the James Jones Gymnastics Academy is the only one in the country that specifically trains young black boys. Over the weekend, a tweet was posted on social media saying, "Help, we need your assistance because their lease is up in less than a week and they need a place to train. Zoning restrictions are also preventing them from relocating, so there are a lot of different issues like that. Their goal is, of course, to increase the number of black boys who are involved in gymnastics, providing them an opportunity established 6 years ago. James Jones, he is the owner and head coach of the academy. He joins us right now. Glad to have you here. When I saw your tweet, I sent this to a couple of pastors in Atlanta, Pastor Jamal Bryant, as well as Pastor William Murphy. Did Pastor Bryant said, did they make contact with you regarding the use of their facility?
Yes, and a lot of people have made contact with me, and I'm so glad since the tweet and since a lot of pages have shared it. I've gotten hundreds, probably close to 500 or 600 emails, text messages, messages on social media, and it's taken me a while to go through all of them, but I'm very appreciative. I see everyone reaching out to me. You know, I'm still in the middle of packing up, and I'm going to respond, but I appreciate it, and I do see everyone emailing. I'm going down the list, and I'm responding one by one as I come to them. So, yes, I have received the email.
So you're having to pack up from where you are. What is your deadline? Do you have folks assisting you with that? And then what is the type of space that you actually need?
Okay, so my deadline is Friday because that's when the lease is up. I'm getting all of the small things out. And on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I'll have a moving crew in, and they're going to come in and get the equipment and store the equipment just, off-site in storage. The type of building that I would need is a warehouse. Gymnastics requires a lot of space that doesn't need to be altered. Ceilings need to be high, and it needs to be a space where we can just go in and start doing gymnastics without having to do a lot of alterations. And a warehouse would be perfect, except that there are so many warehouses in our area, and they all seem to be zoned for industrial use. And because of that, I can't move to any of them. And
when you say your area, you're in Clayton County.
Yes, I'm in Clayton County.
Okay, go ahead.
And so the issue is, if I were to try to lease a 6,000 to 8,000 square foot building in a shopping plaza in a commercial district, it would be about 4 times what I'm paying now for this space that I'm in. But if I were to go to a warehouse district and get a warehouse that's around that same size, I could pay about $4,000, which would be great and which would be affordable. And, the program could be sustained. But if I am going to be forced to go to a 20,000 square foot, 15,000 square foot, because there are very few far in between commercial buildings that would accommodate us, I run the risk of then not being able to sustain a program that big and just, in a year or so might be closing down because of the cost there.
So with this facility you have right now, what is that costing you per month?
It's $4,200 per month, and just in fees, insurance, it's about $5,000.
And what's the total square footage?
It's 5,100 square feet.
So what is the range you're looking for? What would be your maximum space that you would say that you would not want to go over? Is it based upon space or is it based upon price?
It's based upon ceiling height. Okay. So here the ceiling is 13.5 feet tall. We would at least need the ceiling to be above 16 to 20 feet to allow for our older boys and our developing boys to do the move that requires height. So I'm looking at anywhere 6,000 square feet, 6,500, 7,000 square feet to allow for apparatuses like a vault, which is behind me. We don't have our vault out because we don't have a full runway for it, so we use a vault trainer. And there are just other pieces of equipment that I have that are stored around the gym that I'm storing and waiting until we get a more suitable facility.
Gotcha. And so do you have someone, so you got to be out by Friday, then you'll be storing stuff. And so, what is your process? Do you have people helping you comb through all of these, proposals or offers that people are providing to you to sort of whittle it down and then be able to do site visits and see what's appropriate?
No, not just yet, because I didn't expect any of this. I was actually asking for assistance in our area. I didn't realize that it would, go viral, or that so many people would offer help.
Now, come on, Doc. Come on. You should have known that was going to happen now.
When I said we need help, a lot of people, thought that I was saying we were being evicted. We're not being evicted. The lease is up, and it's just not suitable for me to renew the lease, because I wouldn't be able to do anything in here except recreation gymnastics with smaller kids, and we're a competitive gymnastics team. As I'm seeing everything that's coming in, and I am working with 3 people now to try to get through everything, but I don't have, maybe a professional person who's helping me comb through everything and respond to anything. It's just people who've been working with me at the gym.
Got it. Now, for people to understand, go to my iPad, you will see right here. So you're in Clayton County. So basically, above you to the left is Fulton County. Then you have DeKalb County, and so that's sort of the space. So are you looking to stay in Clayton County, or would you also, if it's the right facility, would you do Fulton or DeKalb?
If it's the right facility, I'm interested and I'm open to it. The reason that I am here in this area is because, we have a trailer park that's behind us. We have low-income apartments that are surrounding. We have an extended stay that's across the street. And there's a grocery store here, a barber shop, a Chuck E. Cheese. There's a lot of foot traffic that comes through, and the kids from the neighborhood in the area, they look in and they see, and they will knock on the door and say, hey, I want to try gymnastics. I would like to come in and do it, and I let them come in. And if I weren't in this area, in an area similar to this, I don't know if I would still be able to offer low income or just free gymnastics to the kids who stop by and who want to do that in the program. Now, we do have families who do pay tuition, and some have a reduced rate. And I don't want to say that the focus isn't on them. The focus is on them. But just this area, I was able to serve a lot of lower income families. And I would like to be in an area where I'm still able to do that. So if I'm not, I understand. So if I have to move to another location where it's more expensive and I can't so much do the lower income or the free classes or, just working with people, that would be fine. But that's just the goal of mine, to still be able to serve just in an area and coach in an area where, if there is a kid who wants to do gymnastics and they can't afford it, particularly boys, because it's so hard to find a boys gymnastics program. And it's almost impossible to find a black boys gymnastics program. I still want to be available, for them. And, I do want to say there are other black-owned or black gymnastics programs that are in our area. They may be in another county or in another city, and, they are there too. But, we just our main focus is boys gymnastics.
Right.
And I don't think there is another all black boys gymnastics team in the United States. If it is, I've never seen them. They would have to call me and let me know. I would be surprised. But to my knowledge, we're the only one. So if I can't do that here and I can't do it, say, in another county, or I'm partnering with someone where we are still serving just families who just can't afford it, I would love to still do that. But the building would have to be affordable for me to do that, and It would also have to be suitable for gymnastics.
Got it. Questions from the panel? On the Congo, you first.
First of all, thank you so much for the work that you're doing. Can you just explain what happens with these young boys who are involved in this gymnastics program? Everyone talks about all these other sports, basketball, football, pursue this, pursue that. You're so passionate about it. What do you see working with these young boys in this program?
I see very early development of fine motor skills, development of personalities, development of vocabularies, because a lot of the moves are in other languages. I see a lot of social skills that they develop. I also see a pride in what they do. So I'm not saying that doesn't happen with other sports, but I believe it happens earlier with gymnastics because of how challenging it is. Gymnastics, in my opinion, is the hardest sport in the world. It also develops muscles in boys faster than other sports because you use your entire body. it's grueling. Like the type of workouts that they do are similar to what a professional athlete would do, because they are the professional athletes at a young age. And, what I just see is a sense of pride in doing something new, learning something new, and having a goal that, you can follow up with and you can compete in. And so that's what I've been seeing over the 6 years that I've been doing this. And there are boys who've come to the program who didn't compete. Some have come for a day, some have come for a week to try it out, a month, and some have been the entire 6 years. And I've tried to provide something for everyone. So even if someone didn't have a goal of competing, at least they came in and had a good time, or they got to say, hey, I got to experience that.
Larry?
Yeah, thank you for all the work that you're doing. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about, you say you share this story on social media, and I want to talk about that, just that. What does it say about sharing a story about something that's important and meaningful, and what that means generally in just, I guess, really humanity, in terms of having a story that connects people and that you share it to a wider audience, and what does it tell you about, I guess, in some ways, some of the common good in humanity?
This has resonated with a lot of people, and a lot of people, whether they are in this same area or other states, they've shared their similar experience with not being able to find a suitable place for their gymnastics program, and they had to close down. Now, I know specifically, it is, I guess, something that Black areas may experience maybe more disproportionately because of the types of buildings and everything that are here. But what I would say is I think it's universal, especially when you think about opening a business. No matter what business it is, if you have an issue opening that business, you will have the same, I guess, feelings as someone else who's having an issue opening that building, and you can relate. I also want to say that there have been so many other gymnastics coaches who've reached out to me and said, hey, what can we do together? You're a small gym. We don't have a gym. We may be mobile. Is there something we can do together? And I appreciate that. And I think that it is something that we should all do together. None of us should ever be begging anybody to help save us, None of us should ever have any issues getting the buildings that we need, the equipments that we need. And so I'm I would really like for all of the coaches who are in this area to come together. If you have a small gym, if you don't have a gym, if you're mobile, if you're teaching a rec class, let's reach out to each other. And I want to point out that I have a GoFundMe, and it's doing well. And I didn't expect it to do as well as it is. And I think that, God has given me this moment, and there is no way that, I can just claim all this for myself. So there are so many gymnastics coaches in this area. We have Coach Gina in Sandy Springs, who had to close down. We have Flip City South. They're doing tumbling and trampolining. We have the Tumbleweeds, and they do well. And we have Kids Gym, which is a rec program. We have Coach K at Airborne Gymnastics, who's there. There are so many gymnastics programs in this area. I don't want to leave anyone else. We have Coach Natalia, and I believe it's twist tumbling, I believe. There are just so many of us, and sometimes we run into these same issues. And now that I do have this time and people are paying attention to the issue, I just want to just reach out to any gymnastics coach in this area, in the state or whatever. If you are having an issue and you think that there's something that we can all do together to partner and collectively solve this issue, or even, I would say, even if a couple of small gyms just got together to get the building that we needed, instead of having small gyms all over this area, I think that we could serve more kids.
You spoke of the GoFundMe. You set a goal of $28,000. It's at $27,260. Some 624 donations that have come through already. Joy.
So I hope that when you're looking for support, it's not just money. You need professional support. Comms directors. You need a lawyer.
Well, actually, hold on. The first thing. Do you have a realtor? To Joy's point, because that person, you can give them what you're looking for. Has anybody offered any commercial realtor?
Yes, since this has happened, there have been so many real estate agents who are in the commercial space who have messaged me. But I do want to point out that since this has happened, our local government has responded tremendously. Commissioner Tasha Allen, she was one of the first people to reach out to me when she saw the post. This was before it went viral. And she said, is there a way that I can assist you in getting in touch with someone in zoning? Maybe they can review some of these buildings for you. Commissioner Handbrick, who is my area commissioner, I spoke with her about a week ago, maybe a little bit more than a week, and she, was helpful in trying to get me in touch with someone in Parks and Rec. My state representative, Eric Bell, he sent me a message asking me how could he help. City Councilwoman Carmelita Gums, she sent me a message when she saw this saying, how could she help? So there are people who are seeing, what's going on, and they are offering to help. And I'm glad that, someone is noticing that the issue that I'm having and that other people are having, and maybe things can be solved. Clayton County Zoning Administration, they got back with me and, they gave me some steps and some things that, I could possibly go through to find, a new location. And I'm so grateful, for all of these people who have, who just offered to help. And it's all coming at once. And I'm going to get back to everyone. If I left anyone off, it's not because, I'm intentionally leaving you off. There are just so many messages, and I'm still trying to go through them. But realtors have reached out, community leaders, pastors, churches, teachers, people are saying, hey, what can we do?
Mm-hmm.
Joy, go ahead.
I'm optimistic.
Joy, go ahead.
Yeah, it sounds like you got it. One of the things I want to talk about or have you talk about is the importance of touching the community beyond the sport. When they walk into your door, there are going to be other people who can reach them as well. Can you talk about that as a gateway of reaching people to deal with other social aspects of the community that you're trying to serve?
I think that anytime you have a group of people who are participating in any structured activity, it builds community. And they go out into their community and they use the things that they've learned, the things that they've seen in that structured activity, such as gymnastics, and the community is better for it. And so what we do here, the kids who come through and the kids who train here, I think that this just sets them up for life to be better citizens and to be more engaged in their community.
All right, then. Well, look, good luck with it, and let us know when you have the grand opening in the new location.
Oh, yeah, I'm optimistic, and I'm sure something will come through. Thank you so much, Mr. Martin, for allowing me to be here.
All right, James, we appreciate it. Thank you so very much, and good luck and more success to those young brothers.
Thank you.
All right, thanks a bunch. Folks, we'll be right back right here. Roland Martin Unfiltered in the stay in Georgia. Wait till I show you how dumb a MAGA Republican is running against Senator John Ossoff. If you're going to run for U.S. Senate, should you know how to spell? We'll be right back.
On the other side of change.
Zohran Mamdani, the New York City mayoral race, and this progressive wave that has sent such a shockwave through all of New York City and really the rest of the country. Jamal Bowman is going to help us understand what this mayoral election means and how we make sure that it translates across the nation.
Can you imagine national Democrats identifying themselves as having flavor or riz or swag? Absolutely not, right? So hopefully the city does what it can in November to help resurrect this dying party and honestly just resurrect our democracy.
Only on the other side of change on the Black Star Network.
Hello, I'm Paula J. Parker. Trudy Proud on the Proud Family.
I am Tommy Davidson. I play Oscar on Proud Family, Louder and Proud.
Hi, I'm Jo Marie Payton, voice of Sugar Mama on Disney's Louder and Prouder, Disney Plus. And I'm with Roland Martin on Unfiltered.
So, Congressman Mike Collins, he's come out and announced that he is going to run against, or he wants a Republican nomination to face Democrat incumbent Senator John Ossoff, U.S. Senator in Georgia. So it always happens, people, they come out with these new ads announcing their campaign, and so Collins did so. slight problem. Check this out.
Places broken, out of touch Democrats like our 2 U.S. senators will fight harder for MS-13 gang members than they will nursing students at UGA. No, we've got to be absolutely unrelenting. We've got to be unafraid to fight. We've got to be unafraid to call balls and strikes, a spade, and I think y'all have seen I don't mind doing that.
Mike Collins, great job you're doing.
Okay, we're going to put the hammer down. We're going to get it done.
No. Go back. Does anybody see anything wrong?
Wow.
He wants to be the U.S. Senator from Joriga.
Joriga.
That's by Estonia in Europe.
And this is how dumb his staff is. Drop the lower third, please. Y'all, it's been up for a day.
Oh, wow. Wow.
It's been up for a day. I'm just saying, I would think, Congo, if you want to be the U.S. Senator from a state, you might want to spell it correct.
It's just kind of like basic politics 101. But, these guys, they're not on the level. I mean, you look at him, you look at Marjorie Taylor Greene. I mean, one thing a lot of these guys lack is intellect. And so given that they lack intellect, I don't see why their campaign folks they probably say, like, oh, my gosh, this is just another attack from the woke left, trying to destroy us and so on and so forth. It's like, yo, your staff doesn't know how to spell or doesn't know how to correct an issue, but their standards are so low that I wouldn't be surprised if they just left it up, just out of ignorance, out of sheer ignorance. And the fact of the matter is, I'm hoping that he loses in a landslide, but it's hard to think about how so many of us who do this work and so many leaders like Ossoff and Warnock, who are intellectuals, who are leaders, who are statespeople, have to run against people with so little desire to have basic abilities like knowing how to spell. But that's where we are right now. I'm glad that you called it out because a lot of folks haven't been.
Joe, my name is Mike Collins, and I want to be the next U.S. Senator from Joriga.
Exactly. Look, as my colleague said, I mean, there are so many people who are going to cling to it. My guess, he leaves it up.
Yep.
And he says that for as crazy as these people are, they might all start calling it Joriga. I mean, they might seek to change the state name to him. Forget about these folks, right? We're not going to convince them. What this should remind you is if you are a young man or young woman who is having imposter syndrome, thinking that you don't belong, thinking that someone's attack on DEI is deserved because you're not worthy to be there, you are worthy to be there. These people are incompetent. You are so much more competent than they are. Not that they made a mistake, but they're too arrogant, too stupid, too uninformed to then try to fix it.
Absolutely idiotic, Larry, but that's MAGA.
Yeah, I agree with my colleagues. He'd probably leave it up. I think what we have to understand is these kind of mistakes, they're made by a black politician. It would be relentless in terms of how they would be treated. I mean, I think the other thing to keep in mind is that things like this, like I said in the past, will really kind of sink a campaign before it even got started. But the other thing is, this is just how it is. I mean, things like mistakes like this don't, like I said, won't impact them long term. What wins elections now, Roland, is rhetoric. Red hot rhetoric. That's what wins elections, and that's the imagery you saw in the ad. And so, like I said, if there was a black candidate, this would be all kinds of jokes and social media ridicule. But you won't see that, and I don't think he could beat. He will win. He's going to win, but nonetheless, I think this is, like I said, you see the imagery that's more reflective of where we are in terms of our electorate.
Yeah, pretty crazy there. But I'm just saying, Joriga. All right then.
I've been there, Roman. I've been there though. I visited there. So
just saying. All right, y'all.
These people think they're getting into Harvard. No.
Just saying.
They ain't getting into Harvard.
Folks, let's talk about a food crisis happening in our world at a major United Nations food summit in Rome. Pope Leo XIV, ripped what's happening in Gaza, calling the use of starvation a, quote, cheap way of waging war. Of course, we are seeing a lot of criticism of Israel as a result of the folks who are dying in Gaza. As a result, literally, the starving that's been going on, massive pressure being put on Israelis to stop this war, to allow food to come in. Pope Leo, he has condemned armed groups from burning farmland, blocking humanitarian aid, and deliberately starving entire communities, actions that have left millions across the world trapped. Now, that's critically important because we see what has been happening. Now, here's the full quote. Pull it up. Come on, pull it up. What does he say? We are currently witnessing with despair the iniquitous use of hunger as a weapon of war. Starving people to death is a very cheap way of waging war. That's what he had to say. And here in the United States, nearly 500 tons of expiring food that was already paid for by U.S. taxpayers has been destroyed by the Trump administration because, well, they don't really give a damn, so they're not pro-life, so they don't care if you starve to death, because it's all satisfying Doge and their cuts. That didn't sit well with U.S. Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia. And let's just say he took it to an official with the Trump administration. Watch this.
Kaine, I guess you made the deal. You're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Regas, good to see you again. Mr. Chair, I'd like to introduce into the record an article from Reuters dated May 16, 2025, titled, Exclusive U.S. Aid Cuts Leave Food for Millions Moldering in Storage.
It will be entered in the record.
Let me just read some excerpts from this article that came out 2 months ago today. Food rations that could supply 3.5 million people for a month are moldering in warehouses around the world because of U.S. aid cuts and risk becoming unstable. The food stocks have been stuck inside 4 U.S. government warehouses since the Trump administration's decisions in January to cut global aid programs. A spokesperson for the State Department, which oversees USAID, said in response to detailed questions about the food stocks that it was working to ensure the uninterrupted continuation of aid programs and their transfer by July as part of the USAID decommissioning process. Quote, USAID is continuously consulting with partners on where to best distribute commodities at USAID warehouses. A proposal to hand the stocks to aid organizations is on hold. Finally, nearly 500 tons of high-energy biscuits stored at a USAID warehouse in Dubai are due to expire in July, according to a former USAID official. The biscuits could feed at least 27,000 acutely malnourished children for a month. The biscuits are now likely to be destroyed or turned into animal feed. That article was from 2 months ago. Yesterday, The Atlantic reported that the expiration date on those 500 tons of nutritious food for starving kids was now upon us, and the U.S. had decided to incinerate that food rather than allow starving children to have it. Mr. Regas, you're the Deputy Secretary for Management and Resources. These are resources that were purchased with U.S. taxpayer dollars. They're specifically designed to save the lives of starving children. Why is it a good use of resources to not distribute that food to kids and instead burn it?
Thank you for the question, Senator. I'd have to look into that particular issue and see how those foodstuffs got there and why they were.
Can I just interrupt for a second? I asked this question at a hearing yesterday, so you would be prepared to know that I would ask it today. And we called your office to tell you that I would ask it today. So the notion that you need to look into it strikes me as a little bit odd. As you sit here today, is that food being distributed to kids or is it being incinerated?
If it's been expired, my understanding is it's the policy of the government to not distribute expired food or medicine.
Then given that this has been written about for months, and the article in March that I introduced in the record was not the first, we've been asking Secretary Rubio about this back into March. Since it has been known for months that this food would have an expiration date, Why has the State Department decided to burn it rather than distribute it to starving children?
Yeah, I don't have a good answer for that question, Senator. I am as distressed about that as you are.
Okay, so I was going to ask you, does that kind of make you feel ashamed? Are you proud of it, or are you indifferent to it?
Look, I don't think it's, I'm not going to say I'm ashamed or proud or indifferent to it, but I think that was a failure.
How about this, just as a statement of proposition? If the U.S. uses taxpayer dollars to buy specialty foods for starving children, I think it's better that the food be distributed to starving children rather than incinerated. You would agree with that? I completely
agree with that. Yeah, I think this was just a casualty of the
I have a hard time. I view it as an intentional thing, because if we suddenly woke up in July, oh gosh, the expiration date is today.
Yeah.
That would be one thing. But in March, there was a request by the World Food Program and others, look, if you're not going to distribute it, maybe you've decided, the U.S., that starving kids are no longer your thing. Yeah. But you have this asset. If you're not going to distribute it, we'll distribute it.
Yeah.
So it's not a mistake if you've been on notice of it for 2 months and you've made the decision to keep the warehouse locked and allow this food to be destroyed, rather than, again, I think the article says this would feed at least 27,000 acutely malnourished children for a month. I mean, so is this incompetence or cruelty or both?
I'd have to look into what the facts of the matter were. If there were another aid organization that was asking to have access to that, to deliver it.
Well, I want you to look into it. I really hoped you'd come to me today and say, having been put on notice, I was going to ask this. We're going to give the food to kids. Yeah. Hey, you went to Boston University. Who is the most famous BU alum?
The most famous BU alum?
Next to you.
I don't know. I don't want to offend anyone that's graduated from BU. But
I'll tell you who it is.
Okay.
Martin Luther King Jr. Yeah. What do you think Martin Luther King Jr. would say about a nation that purchased food for starving kids and then locked it in a warehouse until it expired and incinerated it, rather than giving it out so that 27,000 starving kids could survive meagerly for 1 more month?
Well, we're still the biggest giver of aid anywhere in the world by far. So I think, look,
I'll just conclude. Yeah. I want to hand it back to you, Mr. Chair. A lot of complicated issues. Sometimes the tiniest detail really exposes the soul. We had a big bill that increased the deficit by $3 trillion and big tax breaks and cut SNAP and all of that. But a government that is put on notice, here are resources that will save 27,000 starving kids. Can you please distribute them or give them to someone who can, who decides, no, we would rather keep the warehouse locked, let the food expire, and then burn it. To me, that really exposes the soul of this endeavor. And I am glad to hear you at least say that my questions cause you some concern.
I certainly did say that. I'll say it again. And look, this is a media account, so I'd want to look into, like, I have to, forgive me if I don't always take everything that's reported in the media to be 100% factual, but I do want to find out what happened here and get to the ground truth.
Thank you.
And if that's what happened. Thank you.
It shows you how sick these people are, Joy, when they destroy food. Food specifically for people starving across the world. And when the World Health Organization says, fine, we'll pick it up, they're like, nah, we'll still destroy it.
That's right. I mean, cruelty is the point here. They don't care about the people that are needing this food, whether they're frankly here or abroad. They'd rather throw it away because they are throwing red meat to a nasty base that wants to see people suffer. Now, I think they're broken, and I pray for them, of course. But the bottom line is they do have an eagerness to see people harmed and hurt. And so just like we are showing the images of what's happening in Gaza, and we should be, we've got to show more and more images of this food being destroyed, of the people who are suffering, who are not getting the aid that they have been reliant on. all of that, because we've got to throw it in the face of Americans who seem disassociated with their morality, with their purported Christianity. This is about a nasty leader of a party with a nasty base.
Yeah, I mean, Larry, they show it over and over and over again. They don't care. That's how crass they are.
So it's interesting, Roland, that the exchange Senator Kaine and a gentleman testified from state. He knew that question was going to be asked. Like, I've worked with administrator, individuals who were testifying before Congress before. He knew that question was coming. He knew the answer to the question. He just was deflecting, which happens a lot in this administration. I think the other thing is that I would say it was a low point when you throw away food for starving children. But I assume that we have, unfortunately, there are levels to this over the next couple of years that we're going to see, and then we're going to look back at this and say that this is an appetizer to much worse things happening down the line. I think the other thing, Roland, in terms of the lack of humanity when it comes to an issue like this, is secondly, this is a foreign affairs issue. Because I don't think Americans, we don't think about what happens in other countries. When people aren't hungry, they're desperate, and then they look for other ideas and beliefs that provide them with hope in terms of improving their situation, and then also to figure out who's to blame. And often America is a country that people point to on issues like this, and this is an exactly real life example. So I think people not only look at it in terms of it shows a lack of humanity, but also, again, you have to look at this as a very serious foreign affairs blunder.
Omekongo?
It's important to note that this is happening in so many different areas of the government. This is one example with Tim Kaine. There's another example where they got rid of like 500 tons of food. And one of the things we talk that was meant for children in Afghanistan. One thing we also be mindful of is that it costs money to get this food together, but it also costs money to destroy the food. And so it's not like it's just being recycled somewhere, right? And they talk about ending waste, fraud, and abuse. That Afghanistan example I gave you, Biden administration put up $800,000 to get this food. It's going to cost $100,000 to destroy it. So that's one of the issues that we have to be mindful of. When we talk about this, I'm surprised Mike Rodriguez, I looked it up while you were showing the clip, still has a job, because, he was critical of the Trump administration that he works for. You saw what happened with the FEMA person a few weeks ago as well. We have to be mindful that this is one of the things that is helping change the tide on what's happening in Gaza. Right now, when people are seeing the starvation, now you have Israeli human rights organization using the term genocide. Netanyahu's in trouble. Most people who are defending Israel aren't saying Israel has the right to defend itself anymore. But this is part of an international trend of depravity towards the world's most vulnerable people. USAID, going off of Larry's point in terms of foreign policy, when those USAID trucks arrived, what did it say on it, Roland, on those bags? From the American people. That's what they called soft power. And that's what the United States is losing with Trump, rule by force, whatever they do, they talk about, do everything by force. They're losing the ability of soft power, and China stepping in and other countries are stepping in. So not only is number one, this destroying the lives of children and families, two, it's also destroying the United States' ability to be able to have real diplomacy in this world that comes through food aid. And it's really disgraceful and barbaric.
All right, hold tight 1 second. We come back. Roland Martin Unfiltered. The party of pro-life. If that's the case, why there are so many sexual deviants who keep getting busted? I'll share a couple with you, folks. Don't forget to support the work that we do here at Roland Martin Unfiltered and the Black Star Network. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. If you want to contribute via Cash App, you see the QR code right here. Check it out. Seeing checks and money order, first of all, make a payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. Send them to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. PayPal, R. Martin Unfiltered. Venmo, RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Back in a moment.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. Democracy in the United States is under siege. On this list of bad actors, it's easy to point out the Donald Trumps, the Marjorie Taylor Greens, or even the United States Supreme Court as the primary villains. But as David Pepper, author, scholar, and former politician himself says, there's another factor that trumps them all and resides much closer to many of our homes. His book is Laboratories of Autocracy, a wake-up call from behind the lines.
So these state houses get hijacked by the far right, then they gerrymander, they suppress the opposition, and that allows them to legislate in a way that doesn't reflect the people of that state.
David Pepper joins us on the next Black Table, here on the Black Star Network.
Bruce Smith, creator and executive producer of the Proud Family, Louder and Prouder, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
A&M board, when they hired the grossly unqualified Marva Johnson to be their new university president, they also approved a massive salary increase of a $650,000 annual salary plus a $150,000 one-year retention bonus, which I don't understand. You haven't done anything yet. Way more than what they were paying previous president Larry Robinson. Well, what they said was they were like, well, you know what? We're just going to sit here and just have the Florida A&M Foundation, you know what, pay for some of her salary. And then Foundation's like, nah, we're good. This is not quite interested in doing that. Folks at the Rattler Nation published this story. I got a kick out of this here, where they weighed in on this. It says FAMU Foundation declines to fund Johnson's salary, which I think is pretty hilarious. It says the FAMU Foundation, they said, nah, we've got some other budget issues, and so we're good. The Florida legislature says this year added a last-minute budget amendment to the state's 2025-2026 spending plan that gives FAMU the ability to sidestep a state law that caps the amount of money, public money, state colleges and universities can spend on presidential salaries. Florida law currently caps the amount of public money spent on college and university presidential salaries at $200,000 up until now. Each institution had to fund the rest out of their private foundation funds. Well, Florida A&M were like, yeah, we still paying the interim president, we still paying former President Larry Robinson, so you know what? We just gonna take $400,000. We gonna spend that on the Marching 100 and the athletic team. I think that makes a lot of sense, Larry. Bottom line is, y'all want to hire her at that crazy ass salary. She ain't qualified. Don't come to us asking us to pay her ass. Y'all go find that damn money yourselves.
Roland, obviously, I've been following this very closely over the last couple of months, and it really, for the people who don't understand government inside deals, this is an example when you talked about raising the cap quietly, inserting it into the budget bill. But I'm glad the foundation. I chair an HBC foundation right now, and we're a 501c3, and there are times that you have to take a stand that may differ from the university or other entities associated. And so I applaud, the chair and members of the board for taking this stand. I'm quite sure they experience a lot of political pressure, but you have to do the right thing by the foundation. You have, fiduciary responsibility. And, there are, presidents of HBCUs out there with 10, 15, 20 years of experience who are not even making the salary that she's currently making with no experience. So once again, I applaud members of the foundation board, and this is just how things get done in Florida.
I love this line here. Omen Congo says, meanwhile, the foundation nearly doubled its projected gift fee revenue from $355,000 to $750,000, citing stronger donor engagement. Of that increase, $400,000 will bolster FAMU's athletic department and its famed Marching 100 band. A move applauded by alumni, but raising questions about priorities amid leadership pay debates. Hell, listen, if I was getting money to Florida A&M, it would have restrictions. Don't send my money for Marva Johnson.
Oh, most
That's
definitely.
right.
I mean, how did they? What I like about this story is that people like Ron DeSantis, Youngkin, here in the DMV in Virginia, and obviously Trump at the top, they're expecting every aspect of these colleges to just obey in advance. And if they don't, they are being targeted in every way, shape, or form. And so the foundation is saying we don't have to be a part of this. We don't have to agree with this. We don't have to be down with this. And you're definitely not going to be coming for our dollars, because they are liable for where their money goes. And the fact of the matter is DeSantis feels like they can do whatever they want, whenever they want, and if all of their cronies, and that everybody's just going to bend over, even if they are not directly under his rule. And they are not having it. And if I was given the money, I would devote it towards the music. I would devote it towards anything but this particular individual. So many people stood up to make sure that she was not going to be there, and they put her in position anyway. But it doesn't mean that everybody who's associated with the school has to just bend over and do everything their way. So I appreciate them fighting back. And it's not even just fighting back. It's just doing what's right. And we're in a crisis of morals right now, where so many people are so scared of DeSantis and his ilk that they're afraid to just do what's right. So I applaud the foundation for what they're doing.
And look, it was all a hookup, a setup, Joy. First of all, they voted not to allow the board chair to negotiate. They picked another board member who actually was her homegirl. And so anybody with any brains would say, hold up, why are we going to pay you double we were paying Larry Robinson, and you ain't never worked at a university, you've never run an office, you've never run this of employees, and so I'm with them. I'd be like, yo, go find the money somewhere else. Go holler at your MAGA Republican legislature to find your money. Foundation like, nah, don't come holler at us.
Exactly. Look, the grift is on with these people. The grift is on. They're all about self and getting as much money as they can for self. But this is also a reminder, if you are on a board of a foundation, if you are in a minority party of a legislature or Congress, you have to know the rules. And you have to know what you can do. And you have to make them fight for everything.
Yep.
You have to use every tool at your disposal. So some people are out there tweeting and doing social media. That's fine. Some people are out there protesting. That's fine. But if you are in a position where you can put the screws to them on the rules, if you can say, hey, we got the money, we're going to use it for some other thing. Oh, that's not what you expected? Well, where's it written?
Just be like Seth the Entertainer. Say dog, I ain't got it. I ain't got it. Let me stay in Florida, y'all. Let me stay in Florida, y'all. Y'all gonna love this one here, because you know they love talking about how they depart their family values and all that sort of good stuff. And they complain about drag queens and library readings. Well, check this out, y'all. A sitting city commissioner is facing, this is Fort Pierce Commissioner James Taylor. He's already resigned. Why? Because he was arrested on 24 felony child exploitation charges. 24. Come on. Show us photo. Let's go. Let's show him. He was elected in November. He's accused of sending explicit photos and soliciting child porn from a 12-year-old girl in Illinois. He's in the St. Lucie County Jail on $360,000 bond. The charges include lewd computer solicitation and transmission of harmful material to a minor. His resignation becomes official on August 2nd. The city commission will meet to determine how to fill his vacant seat. Oh, but I'm not done. I'm not done, y'all. It was another dude. He was very much involved in the election, and he was the leader of a right-wing faith organization when they talked about that was pushing people to vote their faith at the ballot box. I wonder if is his part of his faith the freaky shit that he was doing. Okay. The program was called My Faith Votes. Oh, y'all gonna love this here. Okay. My Faith Votes. And he was the CEO. The only problem with that is his ass just got arrested, y'all. Yeah, he got arrested and he pled guilty. You know what he pled guilty to? Possessing child pornography. Yep. Mr. I love my faith. He's a former CEO. And Jason Christopher Yates, 56 years old, pled guilty to 2 of 8 felony counts of possession of child pornography. This took place in McLean County, Minnesota. He was initially charged and arrested in October 2024. And of course, he served as the CEO. And they said, well, he got to go. So what about that child pornography faith? I mean, I see why they're making excuses for Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump, because that's just sort of who they are, Omekongo.
Yeah, oh man, I could have sworn when you talked about this segment, we were going to talk about the superintendent in Oklahoma who had the porn.
I ain't done. No. Focus on this right now. I ain't done.
Okay. I just the hypocrisy is so real, and the fact that people are going to try to talk about this being some other type of conspiracy, and like, these people are being exposed for who they are. They spend all their time jumping into other people's business, into other people's bedrooms, into other people's houses, other people's classrooms, and they are doing everything that they're talking about other people should not be doing. And really, at the end of the day, this type of exposure should lead people to get away from this party, to get away from MAGA. We're not talking about being conservative or anything, getting away from MAGA, because they're hypocritical. And not only that, they are some of these guys are predators and they are criminals. Why do you still want to associate with them? Just because they're feeding you whiteness as a thing to help you stay afloat in this country? You got to do better than that.
Yeah, and here's what's crazy. I mean, this is, so, Larry Omekongo was talking about Ryan Walters. He's the superintendent of schools there in Oklahoma. So this story here dropped that was pretty interesting, that they were in a board meeting, and let's just say, porn rolled up on his screen. This is, the Oklahoman reported this here. Board members say naked women on TV in Ryan Walters' office during closed session. This is the headline. Okay, now this is board members, y'all. This ain't just like some internet gossip. It's board members, okay? And so this has been talked about all over. Now I'm going to play this for y'all. I'm going to show y'all this here. Of course, Walters has come out with a statement. He goes, "As I lead the charge for a bold overhaul of education in Oklahoma, putting parents back in control, rejecting radical agendas, and demanding excellence, it's no surprise to face politically motivated attacks. Any suggestion that a device of mine was used to stream inappropriate content on the television set is categorically false. I have no knowledge of what was on the TV screen during the alleged incident. There's absolutely no truth to any implication of wrongdoing. These falsehoods are the desperate tactics of a broken establishment afraid of real change. They aren't just attacking me, they're attacking the values of the Oklahomans who elected me to challenge the status quo." I don't think so, Larry.
Yeah, so that I read that, denial. He pulled something from that Bill Clinton, Monica Lewinsky denial from many years ago. Like, the politicians, and religious leaders also get caught all the time in these situations. And obviously the first thing they do is deny, and then he laced it with a bunch of rhetoric to make it seem like it's a conspiracy out to get him. He was in closed session. They saw it. They could stay. I read the article. They saw you got caught. But instead of manning up and highlighting, you made a mistake or whatever, he's going through a tough period, whatever excuse he would come up with, he's going to deny it. I see there's an investigation. We'll see if it's an actually investigation or a wink and a nod to an investigation, and they're actually going to look at what was on this, this screen. But it's a level of hypocrisy. We should also note that there is a research showed to the people who have these extreme views, and also that they digest this kind of content. So it's not surprising if you look at the research and read about individuals who have these extreme views and what they really do behind closed doors.
I'm just saying. Joy, he should just go ahead and just let his freak flag fly.
Exactly. Look, let's clarify. A lot of people watch porn. It's not wrong. I'm going to go out and say that.
I love this person right here. Goes, he's an honorable man. I believe this was a setup.
Yeah. Let's talk about what this is. When you're doing it on a public device and you're doing it at work, that's the problem. That's in one category.
I love it.
Then let's talk about
together.
people who are engaging in child pornography. Is something totally different.
Yeah, and again, there's an account I follow on Twitter. It's a whole lot of Republicans who are constantly getting busted on child pornography. I mean,
correct.
I mean, just some sick, demented individuals, and they always put ain't drag queens.
Yeah, it's the intensity of their denial that usually tips us off.
Yeah.
That something is wrong with them, something that they're seeking to hide.
Well, guess what? They're asking for the sheriff to investigate, so we're going to see what happens there in Oklahoma. All right, folks, I'm going to have the Original T Classic video for tomorrow. We've got a couple of sports stories we're going to talk about tomorrow as well. CeCe Sabathia, as well as Bubba Wallace, but we'll say that tomorrow. Let me thank my panel for being with us today, Joy, Larry, and Omi Congo. So appreciate it. Thank you so very much for being here, folks. That is it for us. We got to bounce. First off, of course, support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club, okay? Use Cash App if you want to support our Bring the Funk fan club. Here it is. Of course, use the Stripe QR code. Click that. Click the Cash App button to contribute. Check some money order, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 2003 7-0196. PayPal's R. Martin Unfiltered, Venmo RM Unfiltered, Zelle Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Of course, if you want to, download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. You can check it out right there. Of course, you can also, get my book, White Fear, The Browning of America, is making white folks lose their mind. Available at bookstores nationwide. Get the audio version I read on Audible, folks. Don't forget to get our Black Star Network swag. If you can do that by going to shopblackstarnetwork.com. Get our hats, T-shirts, all sort of stuff right there on the website. Also, there are other black-owned products you can also get there as well. So you want to support those products, shopblackstarnetwork.com. Don't forget, you can also, right here, you can also, of course, support Fanbase. Support Fanbase by downloading the app. If you want to invest, go to startengine.com/Fanbase to do that as well. Also, let me shout out my sister, Levita Martin Marshall, turns 55 today. She had a big celebration in Houston on Saturday night. They had a, what's with them sipping paint parties? Y'all know I wasn't painting nothing. I was busy the one doing the video, of course. That's what I was doing. So my job is always document the good stuff. So that's what was taking place. So had a great time at the house celebrating her birthday. Let me see if I can get the video playing right here. And so that's, let's see what's going on. There we go. All right, here we go. That's her right there, jamming to the music. And so my parents were there. A lot of family members were there. Everybody enjoying themselves with the sip and paint party. When I got there, y'all know the party got turned up because I started DJing. And see, that's why the whole room is doing what they do. So that's the way we roll. So Levita, happy 55th birthday. All right, folks, that's it for us. I got to go. I'll see y'all tomorrow right here, Roland Martin Unfiltered, right here on the Black Star Network. Holla!